Hello there, and welcome. Tonight, we'll be taking a long, slow walk through the winding, crowded streets of ancient Rome, but not the Rome you might picture from glossy textbooks or dramatic films, not the marble palaces or the thunder of gladiators. No, tonight, we'll drift back into a quieter, more uncomfortable corner of history, the version of Rome that existed behind the grandeur, a Rome of shadows and struggle, of smoke-filled streets and worn leather sandals, of men and women living ordinary, difficult, often overlooked lives. We'll move gently through 4 chapters, each a soft exploration of a different facet of Roman civilization. I'll begin by stepping into the sandals of a poor Roman, perhaps a bakeress assistant or a launderer's son. You'll feel the bricks of the tenements, hear the street vendors call, and try to find a little water that isn't quite so muddy. Then I'll follow a man who once held the fate of the Republic in his hands, Marcus Tullius Cicero, and listen quietly as his words, once sharp and revered, fall silent under political betrayal. After that, we'll descend into hidden chambers, carved from stone and lit by oil lamps. There, a secret cult once whispered ancient mysteries beneath the city's feet, mysteries we still do not fully understand. And finally, we'll slip into the elegant stillness of a wealthy Roman villa, where golden mosaics glint in the sunlight, and the hush of power is carried on sandalwood-scented breezes. But even there, life is not always what it seems. So if you're ready, breathe gently, settle into your bed or chair, let your body relax, and your mind wander backward, 2,000 years, to the streets of the eternal city. Imagine yourself waking to the dim grey light of a Roman morning. You are in the Subura, one of the most densely packed, poorest neighborhoods in the city. The air inside your insula, a tall, narrow apartment building of wooden beams and crumbling bricks, is already warm. The ceiling above you creaks faintly as someone shifts in bed. You are several floors up, far from the ground-level fountain where the cleanest water is fetched, and you know that the climb down and back up again will not be easy. Your room is small, a mat, a jug, a rough wooden chest for the few clothes you own. The walls are bare, except for a faint black smear. Mold, perhaps, or smoke. You rise, rubbing your eyes, and step out onto a narrow landing. The stairwell smells faintly of damp straw and oil smoke. Someone has spilled fish sauce garam on the steps again. It's already begun to sour. You descend carefully, passing neighbors who nod or mutter. Everyone here works, or begs, or both. Outside, the street is already alive. Vendors are pushing carts filled with bread and olives, crying out their prices in rhythmic chants. Children dart between them, barefoot on the cobblestones, their laughter mingling with the distant clang of metalwork. The sun climbs slowly above the rooftops, casting angled light down alleyways filled with drifting smoke from morning fires. A woman beats rugs from a window above. Dust rains down. You step aside, already sweating. You hear a shout. 2 men arguing over a cartwheel. A group of slaves in rough tunics carries baskets past you. The street narrows ahead, and the scent of animal dung grows stronger. You pass a public latrine, one of the hundreds scattered across the city. There's no privacy, just stone benches, worn smooth with use, and a shallow gutter running along the floor. Someone hums softly inside. Someone else is snoring. A man who likely slept there, too drunk or too tired to walk home. You push on toward the market. Today, you'll work at the Falonica La Laundry. But this isn't washing clothes in a stream. No, this is ancient Roman laundering, a process that involves stale urine, collected from jars placed in public corners. It's acidic, and it helps lift grease from wool. Your job, to stomp on tunics in shallow vats, all day, feet red and cracked by the end. You pass the forum, its grandeur in contrast with your world. You don't stop. You rarely do. It's not for you. As you near the laundry, the scent intensifies, pungent, sour, and eye-watering. You take a breath and begin your shift. Throughout the day, the city pulses, donkeys bray, hammers echo, voices rise and fall like the tide. You stop only briefly. Bread dipped in olive oil, perhaps a fig, if you're lucky, and always water, though it never quite tastes clean. By evening, you walk home under a sky streaked with smoke and color. The bathhouses are packed. You walk slowly, your muscles sore, your nose no longer bothered by the city's many scents. They're part of the rhythm now. You return to your narrow room, and sleep comes quickly. Not because life is peaceful, but because exhaustion leaves no choice. This was just one day. Tomorrow will be much the same, and the day after that. This was life. For most of Rome, imagine, now, a different kind of morning in ancient Rome. This time, the year is 43 BCE. The city is tense, though you may not feel it at first glance. The sun still rises over the Palatine Hill. The Tiber still winds slowly beneath its arched bridges. Vendors still call out in the marketplaces. But just beneath this quiet rhythm, something has shifted. Rome is no longer a republic in any true sense. Power is slipping, not into the hands of the Senate, but into those of generals. And in the middle of this uncertainty is a man named Marcus Tullius, a man whose voice once stirred the hearts of senators, whose words could still a crowd, and whose pen could slice through reputation like a knife through papyrus. He is no soldier, no man of action, but he has always believed that reason and law and eloquence, the voice of a thoughtful republic, could endure. Cicero was born into a modest family, not poor, but far from elite. He rose not by inheritance, but through the careful cultivation of talent. He studied rhetoric, philosophy, and law. He wrote with meticulous discipline, often before sunrise. He practiced speaking until his voice was hoarse. By the time he was a young man, his skill with language had earned him a place among Rome's most respected minds. He served as consul, the highest office in the Republic. He fought corruption, sometimes effectively, sometimes not. He believed in the Senate, even as it weakened. He had allies, he had enemies, and he was always watching the direction of the wind. But Rome, in these years, was no place for men of words. Not anymore. Power was being carved with swords, not syllables. The murder of Julius Caesar, just 2 years earlier, had plunged the city into chaos. Civil war brewed, factions formed, and amid it all, Cicero tried, perhaps futilely, to steady the ship. He pinned his hopes on Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir. He wrote him letters, he offered guidance, he publicly supported him. Perhaps he believed that this young man might preserve the values, but Octavian was calculating, quiet, watching. Meanwhile, Cicero made a more dangerous enemy, Mark Antony, a soldier, a drinker, charismatic, ruthless, and deeply offended by Cicero's attacks on his character. The speeches were scathing. The Philippics, as they came to be known, compared Antony to a disease, a madman, a tyrant in waiting, and in Rome, such words are not forgotten. Eventually, Antony and Octavian, for reasons of convenience, formed three men who now held control of the state, and they began to list their enemies. They called them proscriptions, a polite word for targeted killings. A list would be published, and if your name was on it, anyone could kill you and be rewarded for doing so. Cicero's name appeared near the top. By the time he learned of it, it was already too late. He had left Rome, retreated to a seaside villa, perhaps still believing he could reason, or wait, or write his way out. But the men came for him, quietly, quickly. Cicero, now an old man, did not fight. He exposed his neck. Some say he uttered his final line. "There is nothing proper about what you are doing, soldier, but do try to kill me properly." They took his head, his hands, too, the ones that had written so many sharp, careful phrases. In a final humiliation, they displayed his remains in the forum, as if to say, this is what happens to voices that speak too boldly. And yet Cicero's words did not die there. Centuries later, scholars in quiet monasteries would copy them by candlelight. Statesmen would read them. Philosophers would quote them. His belief that reason should guide power, and not the other way around, would echo far beyond the age that killed him. So now, we pause, and remember a man whose strength was never in the sword, but in the shape of a sentence, in the pause between thoughts, in the belief that calm logic might stand even when the world around him was crumbling. A man who, like Rome itself, burned bright, then faded, then never truly disappeared. An archaeological and cultural exploration of one of Rome's most secretive religious sects, the cult of myth. The city quiets after sunset, the markets close, the shouting fades, the scent of roasted chestnuts drifts away, replaced by the cool breath of night. And beneath the worn stone streets of Rome, in chambers few knew existed, another world once flickered into life. It is here in the dim stillness of the Mithraeum that we find ourselves now. The cult of Mithras, was never advertised. There were no temples on the capital, no loud processions in the daylight, and yet, from Britain to Syria, from the banks of the Danube to the sands of North Africa, this secret religion quietly spread through the Roman Empire. It was never Rome's official faith, but it was practiced quietly by soldiers, merchants, and civil servants, often those with lives marked by risk, duty, and travel. And even now, we do not fully understand it. Let us imagine you have been invited, not loudly, not publicly, to take part. You follow a trusted friend down a narrow alley. A locked door creaks open. A few cautious glances are exchanged. Then you descend, steps worn smooth. The air grows cooler, earthier, and at the bottom, a narrow, vaulted chamber. The room is long and low, like a cave. Benches line the walls, enough for perhaps 20 men to sit. At the far end, a relief carved in stone. It shows a young man, handsome, strong, wearing a flowing cape. He kneels upon a great bull and plunges a dagger into its neck. The bull's blood, stylized, symbolic, gives life to all creation. This image is everywhere, in nearly every Mithraeum discovered. It is the Teractony, the central mystery of the cult, but its full meaning remains unclear. Mithras himself was likely a Persian god, transformed and reinterpreted by Roman minds, a god of light, of contracts, of eternal struggle. He is often shown emerging from a rock, born fully grown. He wears a Phrygian cap, symbolic of the East, and his eyes are always focused, as if seeing something just beyond this world. The rituals performed here are largely lost, but we have hints. There were 7 grades of initiation, with a name tied to the cosmos: raven, bridegroom, soldier, lion, Persian, courier of the sun, father. Each grade represented a step closer to truth, to light, to understanding. Some rites may have involved fasting, others tests of courage or loyalty. Some suggest a symbolic meal, bread, wine, perhaps in silence, and always secrecy. Women were not allowed, nor were children, only men. Often from the military or civil administration, they gathered underground, not to escape persecution, but because the cave was sacred. It represented the universe itself, the womb of the world, the place where rebirth could begin. Archaeologists have unearthed many Mithraea across Europe. Some are exquisitely preserved. In London, beneath a modern office tower, a Mithraeum was found by surprise, still echoing faintly with the footsteps of Roman boots. In Ostia, Rome's old port city, one Mithraeum contains intricate mosaics and a preserved altar. Oil lamp holders dot the walls. You can still imagine the flickering flame, the murmured words, the sense of quiet, but the silence of the cult remains unbroken. No scripture survives, no scrolls, no records of teachings, sermons, or songs. All that is left is the architecture and the art, and a feeling of something solemn, powerful, and just out of reach. Why was it kept so hidden? Why did it die out so completely when Christianity rose to dominance? Was it always meant to be temporary? Or was it simply never meant to be remembered by the masses? We do not know, and perhaps that's part of its purpose. Not all things are meant to be understood. Some truths, like Mithras himself, emerge from stone, glint briefly in the torchlight, then vanish into the dark. So let us ascend now, back to the surface, back to the city above, back to the sunlight and sound, leaving behind that cool, quiet chamber beneath the stones. And as we return, we prepare for one final visit, one last glimpse of Roman life, not in the streets or in secret temples, but in the sprawling villa of the elite, a soft immersion into the lives of Rome's elite, their routines, luxuries, fears, and delicate social balances. Now, let us leave behind the crowded city center. Let the noise fade behind us, the smell of smoke and fish sauce, the push of feet along stone streets. We walk instead toward the edge of the city, past the monuments, past the shrines and the busy intersections, and eventually we reach a wide gate. Tall stone walls surround the estate. Inside them, a different world awaits. This is a Roman villa, not a rural farmhouse, but a grand urban estate owned by a senator or perhaps a wealthy merchant. The kind of place that whispers rather than shouts, where power moves in sandals across marble floors. Imagine yourself stepping through the gate. The noise of the city dims behind you. The ground beneath your feet shifts, From dirt and cobblestone to carefully swept gravel, ahead lies a grand atrium, the central reception hall. Its ceiling is open to the sky, with a shallow pool, the impluvium below, catching rainwater in the middle of the floor. The walls are painted with frescoes, pale greens, deep reds, mythological scenes, faded gently by time. The air smells faintly of citrus and bees. Slaves move silently along the corridors. They bow their heads as you pass. You do not know their names. Their labor keeps this villa quiet and beautiful, but they remain, always, in the background. You hear the faint strum of a lyre, perhaps a servant playing, or a hired musician for the evening meal. You'd pass into the peristyle garden, open to the sun. A small fountain trickles. Fig trees lean lazily in the warmth. Statues of minor gods, faunus, flora, peer out from alcoves draped in ivy. A caged bird chirps once, then falls quiet. The lady of the house, draped in soft linen, glides through on her way to the baths. She nods, but does not speak. This world, you begin to realize, is a performance. Every gesture, every robe, every polished surface, all carefully arranged. Later, in the triclinium, the formal dining room, the evening meal begins. 3 couches, arranged around a central table. You reclined on your left side, elbow propped. Your right hand is free to eat. A slave offers water in a smooth clay jug. Another presents dates stuffed with crushed nuts and honey. You listen to conversation. It is calm, measured. Politics is discussed, carefully. Philosophy. A guest mentions the latest play at the theatre. Another recites a short passage from Virgil. There is wine, but not drunkenness. This is not a tavern. This is controlled, an environment where reputation is crafted, deal by deal, word by word. But beneath the soft cushions and painted ceilings, there is tension. The villa is beautiful, yes, but it is also a fortress. Not with walls and guards, but with layers of etiquette. A wrong word, a poorly chosen alliance. Even a suspicious glance at a powerful man's wife, and all of this could be gone. The wealthy in Rome lived with both abundance and deep anxiety. Poisonings were whispered about. Exiles occurred suddenly. Favor could turn in a single Senate vote. The emperor's moods mattered more than reason. You might wake one morning to the same soft light filtering through your silk curtains, and end the day banished, your property seized, your slaves auctioned to strangers. And so, the rich cultivated serenity, not always because they had peace, but because they feared its absence. The gardens were trimmed, the lamps always polished, because control over the home was often the only control they had. Night falls over the villa. The final course is served. Perhaps a honey-sweet cake or slices of melon. The guests slip away one by one, their sandals echoing lightly against the stone floors. The slaves extinguish the lamps, one by one. The household returns to its sleeping rhythm. Another day is done, and you walk back through the atrium, past the still waters of the impluvium, past the fresco, and into the quiet of your own chamber. A breeze stirs the linen curtain. The scent of lavender drifts in from the garden. And for a while at least, you are safe. And now, we return. Slowly, we step back out through the villa gate, past the secret temple, back across the forum, and into the narrow streets where our journey began. We have seen many sides of ancient Rome tonight, not the battles or the but the people. We've walked the uneven stones of a poor man's alleyway, watched the fall of a man whose words once shaped the world, descended into a sacred silence beneath the earth, and reclined in the soft, careful luxury of Rome's elite. Each life was different, and yet all shared a constant rhythm of labor, of fear, of belief, of routine. It was a city of grandeur and grime, of mystery and calculation, of power and its consequences. And now, as you lie still in the present, in your bed, in the quiet safety of your own world, you can let those echoes fade gently into the distance. Let the marble crack and crumble. Let the sandals fall silent. Let the oil lamps flicker once and go out. Sleep now. You have walked far. Rome will wait until morning.